So over this past weekend, I was able to partake and watch the documentary What is a Woman by the commentator from the Daily Wire named Matt Walsh. It came out last year. However, I wasn't able to watch the whole thing last year, just little snippets here and there. And after watching the documentary, it got me thinking, is this something that society still is not able to answer correctly? It just can't be true. It's such a simple question. What is a woman? So I went back on Twitter and I even saw that Matt Walsh had went back and forth with a politician, I believe is a senator, a state senator out of Ohio by the name of Nina Turner. And basically the conversation ended with her saying to Matt, if someone says they're a woman, believe them and move on. Like, really? That's where we're at right now? Someone just basically feels something and therefore says something and we just believe them? Just like that? It goes with the whole adage, my truth. There is no such thing as my truth. There is the truth, and that's it. So went back online, started looking at stuff, and I stumbled on this particular video. It's from looked like a dating podcast called At Whatever. I'll leave the link to the video in the summary below. And he's talking to some young ladies here, and unfortunately, they also are caught up in the manipulation of not knowing how to answer what is a woman. So I'm going to comment on this video, do a little reaction, and see if we'll get some level of clarity to this question here. So let's see.
So what does that mean to you to be a feminist?
I believe in equal rights between women and men.
Okay.
I believe that a woman should have the right to choose whether she wants to stay at home and be traditional. I think that's cool.
Sure.
If she wants to go to the workforce, I think that's cool as well. I just think that they should have those opportunities available to them.
And in this day in society, women do have those opportunities. However, those opportunities are only contingent if the woman finds a traditional man. Woman does not have the option to decide if she wants to work or she does not work, if she does not have a traditional man that's going to support her. And it comes with the whole caveat, what comes first, the chicken or the egg? How can she have the option unless she's able to attract a traditional man and maintain a traditional man? Normally, you would expect her to be a traditional woman. And that's the conundrum that a lot of these feminists end up in, and unfortunately end up alone with a whole bunch of cats and dogs.
To me, it just means gender equity, liberation, and the promotion of women's success financially, socially, economically.
You said equity there.
No. It's not about equity. Equity basically is against equality because equality is about equal opportunity. Equity is about equal outcome. And that doesn't happen here. The only way you have equal outcome is by force. Normally by government, some bureaucracy, some higher institution of some sort. So it has nothing to do with equity. Equity is kind of like almost a tenet of Marxism, where it basically makes everything communal, as opposed to being everything based off meritocracy, which we have a majority now in the American capitalist society.
What do you mean by equity? Because equality I have a fairly good understanding of, but equity is a bit more.
I think modern iterations of feminism have kind of moved away from trying to find equality and complete and total parity between the sexes and the genders in like a one-to-one way. I think it's less about trying to find this golden mean that's probably never going to exist, and more about like where do we see deficiencies for the genders and on the basis of sex or gender, and how can we accommodate everybody and make sure everybody's needs are being met.
See, that type of thinking is perpetuated by the false teaching that there's a gender wage gap. I believe they say about 78 or 80 cents on a dollar a woman's getting paid compared to a man, which is not true when you're taking all the factors like overtime, time off, men going to more higher end jobs or even more dangerous jobs, shift differential, things of that nature. When you take those things into factor, then you realize there is no gender pay gap. If anything, maybe the man is not getting paid or compensated as much. So, but with that false thinking, that's why she basically talks more about equity as opposed to equality.
And that nobody's being discriminated against on that basis alone.
On the subject of gender, if I may ask, what is a woman?
Bro.
This is $1 million question.
Don't even bother asking Aaron that question. You're just going to get another question.
Maybe she wants to answer it.
I mean, okay, So I feel like every single time I try to come up an answer with this and I try to think it logically through, I run into some problems. So usually what I try to do is I do ask other people to define it first because I'd rather work on their definition and see if everything tracks.
How do you answer a question like that? Someone asks you a question, but then you're going to ask the question back to them to determine how you're going to answer the question. Nah, baby girl, it don't work like that. You either know the answer and you stay 10 toes down in your answer. And from there, you can have a debate. But for her to say that, basically just says that she's not too sure how to read the room. So she needs someone to give an answer first before she actually could feel how she could go about to, answer the particular question at hand. And to me, that tells me that she's somewhat fearful as opposed to being knowledgeable.
Because so far, every definition that's been presented to me, like, there's some logical consistency.
Okay, but what is a woman?
To me, a woman seems to be somebody who presents as a woman, who acts as a woman societally.
You can't use the same term in the definition of the term.
That's not 100% true. If you know about
That's like saying, what is a dog? A dog is an animal that basically barks. She's correct. I mean, it's illogical to do something like that. So I don't know if this young lady, she's okay looking, but she don't seem that smart.
about functional definitions, that's like, I don't want to get into behavioral psych, that's going to be a whole other thing. But basically, we have these conceptions of what a woman is, how they present, certain feminine features, certain ways that they dress. And we tend to say, okay, if you wear skirts, dresses, have long hair, that's a woman. So whether it's
she described more about the feminine nature. She described more about femininity. A feminine man can, dress or act like a woman, and a masculine woman can dress and act like a man. But we're talking about the biological standard of what actually is a woman. An adult female, with a womb, whether it works or not, she has a womb. A man, what is a man? Adult male that basically has, gonads that produce testosterone. They have a prostate, things of that nature. She's avoiding the question by going into feminine and going to gender as opposed to sticking to the biological sex.
should be considered that or not is a completely different story that then starts.
I wonder this guy here at the end with the blue hair, if he's actually a woman and posed as a man. I'm not too sure. He kind of looks kind of feminine, or not looks, but he kind of seems feminine. I don't know.
Pixie, if I look at somebody and they identify as a woman, but I don't know that, and I just totally register that person as a man in my mind, and that's how I interact with them, then is that person a woman?
Well, that's where we start running into logical inconsistencies, right? I would say basically the main thing is identifier, right?
See, it only becomes illogical because you're doing mental gymnastics in your head. It's either XY chromosome or XX chromosome. That's it. I mean, sometimes you can't tell on the external if a person is a man or woman because some people have that androgynous look to them. You know, like I think of Elliot Page, which used to be known as Ellen Page, the actress, which is now an actor. She looks more like actually like a young boy. So you can't really tell. Even when she was going by a female, you couldn't tell if she's all the way female. So that happens. But we're talking about the biological standard, not by, the external factors to determine if someone's a man or a woman.
So
Why is that the main thing, though?
Because when we say chromosomes, when we say biology and try to use that definition, the reality here is that I did not check anybody's chromosomes in here before calling them a man or a woman.
Or genitals.
There are a lot of other
you can
micro
just tell.
calculations that I think your brain is making about someone's appearance, which makes you register them as either one or the other.
Exactly.
Male or female.
We're making assumptions based on appearances, not genitalia or chromosomes.
Yeah, that's correct. Everyone does that to a degree. I mean, it happens to everybody, because we don't know. Like I said, some people have that androgynous look, so you can't tell.
So there seems to be some sort of inconsistency if we try to define it biologically, because we don't actually act that way in reality. I didn't check your genitalia, I didn't check your chromosomes, I just assumed because of how you presented yourself that you were a woman. So I agree, like it's a complicated subject. It feels like there's inconsistencies whenever we try to define it, like, hey, but wait a second, just because I wear short hair, does that make me...
And see, that's the thing when they do with this whole liberal ideology and progressive movement, is that they change things to where it comes off as a confusion. And of course, through confusion, you cause chaos. And then from there, you're able to dictate your order, your own definition of things.
Me not a woman anymore? Of course not. So it is a complicated subject. I'm not here to pretend I have all the answers.
Actually, I don't think we find it
John,
complicated.
what do you think about that?
I think that you're intellectualizing it too much. I think if we took 100 people and just had them identify every person at this panel, are you a man or are you a woman, they would, with 100% accuracy, be able to discern the biological sex, even
Maybe about 95% accuracy, I would say, not 100%. Because like I said, some people have the androgynous look to them.
without seeing the chromosomes or the genitalia, they would know.
That's definitely not true.
That's absolutely true.
Totally
true.
You could find like femboys and stuff on Twitter that are more feminine than the most feminine women.
You're right.
Yeah, correct. You have very feminine men and very masculine women. So sometimes you can't really tell.
Part of the reason why I asked the question, you mentioned that you're a feminist and you believe in fighting for women's rights, so on and so forth. And there's this interesting thing that started to happen in our society where I've seen a number of articles about this in recent years. It came up on a couple podcasts ago. There are biological males that are being convicted of crimes, and before they go to their sentencing, they all of a sudden start identifying as women, and they get sent to female prisons where they will then go to the female prisons and they will rape the female inmates and impregnate them.
Chase, bro.
Sorry, I forgot, dude. They will grape them. A little too late.
Scuffed, dude.
Yeah, sorry. Anyways, like as somebody who believes in fighting for women's rights.
That is correct. There's actually a particular story that came out where a trans woman impregnated, I think, like 2 or 3 inmates in jail. And you have to say to yourself, something like this is just going to get worse and worse. Because honestly, God forbid, I had to go to jail. I'll transition just like that. Send me to a female prison. So something like that is just going to get worse and worse if it's not nipped in the bud pretty early.
Rights, like, don't you feel like that kind of jeopardizes women's rights?
I think that when it comes to like the whole idea of like a sudden makeshift gender, saying, oh no, like suddenly I identify as a woman so I can get into a women's prison and woman, that is something. Oh, I'm sorry. I keep saying no. I'm sorry.
Keep going.
But yeah, that is something that would be worrisome. Absolutely. And that kind of goes back to this whole idea of like, okay, how long should a person be able to present? Or are there other markers that we can actually, like, the psychologist can talk to you, have a real conversation, and be able to determine, like, what are your true, like, incentives or motives?
That time is long gone. Long gone. I did a video on one of the first people to transition, I think in the 50s and 60s, by the name of Christine Jorgensen. I can't remember what was his name when he was a man. But in the 50s or 60s, sometime after World War II, he transitioned to a woman, and he did a lot of interviews and sit downs and so forth. He mentioned how normally you have to go at least a year before you could transition. And during that course of the year, the doctors would check up on you every so often, like every 2-3 months, just to determine that your transition, smoothly, your behaviors are still intact, your mental capability and facilities are still intact and so forth. But nowadays, all you have to do, just like the lady saying in a tweet, if you say you're a woman, you're a woman. That's it. I mean, once you feel a certain way, you can start the process pretty quickly.
I don't know how common these cases are. I do feel, and I just bring this up, not to try to derail.
Let me just say that the day we had that conversation, it happened again later that day. Like, it's probably pretty common.
Yeah.
I mean, the reason why I kind of want to push back on that is because 1% of the population in the United States is trans, right? So that means like the percentage of people who are trans and also going to jail are probably like less than, if I had to.
It doesn't matter. The fact that it's able to happen, that's the point. That's it. It doesn't matter if it happens 1 billionth minute of a time. The fact that there's laws that allow it to happen is the case. And knowing that the percentage is real low, we know that the percentage is just going to get higher and higher because it benefits most of the perpetrators that end up going to jail.
To guess like less than 0.2 or 0.3%, right? So it just doesn't seem like it would have to be, unless if you have stats saying the majority of trans people are going to jail.
Well, you might actually have an overrepresentation.
Hold on 1 second. It could be happening in jail. It could be happening in women's restrooms. Like these kind of assaults happen all over the place. And it's like, for me, it's like, okay, I hear you say that you're a feminist, but it's like, I feel like a true feminist would really work to protect actual biological women from this whole situation being taken advantage of.
Assault is already illegal, though.
I'd like to add on.
Yeah, it's already illegal, but it's being made.
That doesn't mean
it's
it
being
doesn't
made.
happen.
It's being made easier. It's being made
to...
easier as a result of the direction that our society has gone in, and it's like I feel, you know, women who stand against this stuff, they call them TERFs, right? Trans exclusionary radical feminists. But it's like, I feel like there's nothing radical about it. I feel like a true feminist would actually work to protect her sisters when stuff like.
And that's the thing. That's how you know the feminists of the past, of the old, they got to go to the back of the bus on this, because now they have a slang or a derogatory term if you don't agree with the whole movement right now. They call them TERFs, to basically shame these women for speaking up against, you know, trans men or trans women in bathrooms or trans women in sports and so forth. That just basically tells you that the tide has turned.
Like this is coming up.
Mr. Chase, may I add on to that? I just wanted to ask, how masculine in the face does someone have to be before you're uncomfortable in a bathroom with them?
What do you?
All right, going to pretty much end it right there, as I believe I got my point across, as they're going to go more into different examples about the same question and so on. But it's very unfortunate that this is where we're at right now in our society currently, that people cannot answer a basic question when they actually know the answer, but due to fear and also due to manipulation, they're not answering correctly, or they're not answering at all. So it's good that you have, you know, people like Matt Walsh, people from the Daily Wire, other big time YouTubers, people on Rumble, even myself, a small YouTuber, are out here to push against this, because this ideology is becoming a contagion. It's becoming a contagion to where young adults can grow up that are heterosexual but are engaging in homosexual activities, but I'm going to justify it as being still heterosexual. And it's just going to mess with people's minds as time goes along. Because anytime you live yourself in a lie for too long, especially, you end up manipulating yourself and you end up mentally unstable. Sorry, that's what happens. But let me know. You tell me, what is a woman? Because maybe I'm getting it wrong after all these years on Earth. So I want to hear from you. All right.